What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming back at you. I know it's been a minute. Took some time off, got down, and you can see got some sun on my face. So I'm doing well. Picked up a few LBs while I was down in Mexico. Wasn't too pleased with that, but, I'll get to work on that. But hope all is well. Another disappointing finish for the Big Ten conference in NCAA tournament play. And so now we flip the page to the transfer portal and NIL opportunities in the offseason. So I'll be doing a lot more of these type of updates on the transfer portal, on NIL opportunities that I hear. And we'll also be interviewing some past Big Ten greats here in the offseason on Bardo's Breakdown. Hope you guys doing well. Just want to get into it a little bit, talking about the Big Ten transfer portal update. So there's a lot here, obviously. If you've paid any attention to the transfer portal, there's a number. I believe there's 1,100 players now in the portal as of Friday. So tremendous amount of turnover. And we'll see how it affects Big Ten teams and what they'll look like next season, because there's a tremendous amount of turnover. And let's touch on some of that. Some of the biggest names to leave the conference: Hunter Dickinson is still, he may still return back to Michigan, but it looks like he may end up, he's really looking hard at Georgetown and Maryland, in addition to Kentucky and Kansas. Those are there in the mix as well. But it looks as though the front runners right now appear to be Maryland and Georgetown, with a possibility of Hunter Dickinson returning back to Michigan. Jay Epps from Illinois transfers to Georgetown. So good luck to Epps. And he's going to a fantastic coach in Ed Cooley, who is the newly named head coach with the Georgetown Hoyas. Tamar Bates from Indiana, who started to play better towards the back end of the season, the regular season, is transferring from Indiana to Missouri. So that's a big loss for the Hoosiers, even though the Hoosiers have been very aggressive in the transfer portal, as we'll get to. RJ Melendez from Illinois transfers to Georgia. So good luck to Melendez going from the Big Ten to the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC. Brandon Newman from Purdue is transferring, and I'm not sure. I don't think that he has his destination lined up as of yet. I didn't see anything as of yet, but Brandon Newman from Purdue will be on the move. Hakeem Hart from Maryland, the talented 6'8" wing player, is on the move from the Terrapins. We don't know what his destination is yet, but I think it'll be interesting because he is a very versatile wing. And then Jordan Davis from Wisconsin is in the portal as well. Let's see what this former Badger, where he'll end up. Biggest names to join the conference so far: Kel-El Ware. I'm sure we'll get the correct pronunciation. Kel-El Ware is a 7-foot center from Oregon. For some reason, didn't fit in well with what Dana Altman was doing with Oregon. He comes to Indiana and joins a Hoosier program that has got a little bit of turnover with Trace Jackson Davis leaving. I believe Race Thompson may be back for his 10th season. So that'd be interesting to see. So Kel-El Ware, 7-footer from Oregon, is joining the Indiana Hoosiers. AJ Storr, a big guard, 6'5". He's an Illinois native from Rockford, is leaving St. John's with their coaching change, with Mike Anderson leaving and Rick Pitino coming in as the head coach. AJ Storr will be joining the Wisconsin Badgers in their backcourt at 6'5" from St. John's. Ace Baldwin. Remember this name. His nickname is Ace. I don't remember his first name, but Ace Baldwin. Let me see if I can pick him up real quick on this transfer portal. But just know that Ace Baldwin is a baller, y'all. There's a guard at St. Louis who was one of the assist leaders in the country. I always forget this kid's name. Anyway, VCU, when Ace Baldwin was playing with VCU last season, Mike Rhodes, who was the former head coach at VCU, is now the newly named head coach at Penn State. He is bringing Ace Baldwin from VCU with him to Penn State. VCU went into St. Louis in an A10 battle, two of the better teams in that conference. Ace Baldwin dropped 37 on the road. This kid can get it, and he's going to be an electric scorer for Penn State. So make sure you watch out for Ace Baldwin. If you haven't heard of his name, you heard it here first. Iowa got a really good pickup in Ben Krikke, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Krikke from Valparaiso. And if you know anything about Iowa and Fran McCaffrey, they like offensively gifted bigs. And Krikke is a 3-time all-conference performer at Valpo in the Missouri Valley Conference. He supposedly can score it from inside with pretty good footwork. He can face up and shoot. So he is yet in a tradition of offensively talented bigs. He joins Iowa Hawkeyes. I look forward to seeing what he brings to Iowa City. Caleb Love was definitely the biggest splash early in the transfer portal. He leaves North Carolina and goes to Michigan. Caleb Love is a very talented scorer. I think his defense definitely needs to be picked up, but from an offensive standpoint, he will be unless Terrence Shannon returns to Illinois, I believe that Caleb Love will be the most talented wing in the Big Ten. I'm jogging my memory on the roster of Big Ten teams. There's not going to be a more dynamic scorer than Caleb Love. So that's a huge get for Michigan. And, I'm going to be a little bit critical of some of my counterparts in the college basketball space because I know a lot of college basketball writers that cover the sport are not high on Caleb Love, but Caleb Love can go get you a bucket at any time. So whether these college basketball writers approve of the move and say that Juwan Howard is desperate, hell, somebody's going to get Caleb Love. Why not Juwan Howard in Michigan? Right? For whatever reason, Caleb Love got the brunt of the criticism for the team this past season at North Carolina underachieving, but he was only one player among Armando Bacot, Leaky Black, RJ Davis. They added Pete Nance from Northwestern. So it wasn't all on Caleb Love for North Carolina's lack of success this season. He's a talented wing, will probably be the most talented wing scorer in the Big Ten this season. That's a huge get. And then here's a head scratcher. Jamison Battle from Minnesota transfers to Ohio State. So sometimes it's a head scratcher because you go in conference, and we talked about Hunter Dickinson's possibility of leaving Michigan, going to Maryland. But Jamison Battle, I don't know. What I've found in my research is that he was also considering Indiana. So it really came down between Indiana and Ohio State for Jamison Battle's services. So that's a tough break for Ben Johnson in Minnesota because Jamison Battle would have been a nice elite scoring wing to build around. But he takes his talents to Columbus, Ohio, and we'll see how he fits in with Chris Holtmann and what Ohio State is trying to do from the wing scoring perspective because he is a talented scorer. We've seen that. So what will Hunter Dickinson do? It looks as though Maryland is the front runner right now, but he may return to Michigan. Georgetown is in the mix as well because for those that don't remember that Hunter Dickinson is a DMV native. He is a Washington, D.C. native. He was upset with Mark Turgeon and the Maryland Terrapins for their lack of recruitment on him coming out of high school. So I think that he is considering going back home and playing. And now that Ed Cooley has left Providence and been named the head coach at Georgetown, Georgetown now is in the mix for Hunter Dickinson's talents. So it's going to be fascinating. I'd love to see Hunter stay in the conference for selfish reasons because I love covering the big fella. I think he adds a lot of character and personality with his outspoken nature. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I think the decisions in the transfer portal have to be made by May 11th. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what I've heard. So it will be fast and furious up until May 11th. So we'll see what happens. But Hunter Dickinson's decision, I thought it would come sooner than now, but he seems to really be taking his time and weighing all of his options. But I want to hear what you guys think. Where do you all think that Hunter Dickinson will end up? We talked about how will Caleb Love fit at Michigan? Well, you lose you lose Howard, you lose Jet Howard, you also lose Kobe Buffkin, who to me I thought could use another year under his belt, but he wants to test the waters, and he may go because Kobe Buffkin really came on in the Big Ten slate. Really started. He struggled at the beginning, but caught fire. All of the coaching staff at Michigan raved about his work ethic. So the young man got better and better as the year went on. And I wouldn't be surprised to see for Kobe Buffkin really wanting to test the waters. I hope he goes undrafted if he's going to keep his name in the draft, because here's a young man that if he doesn't get drafted, then he could put his name. He could go to a camp that he could make that squad. He could go to a NBA team that could utilize his skill set much better than maybe getting drafted in the second round and maybe not going to a franchise that could utilize his skill set. But whether or not Kobe Buffkin is around, Caleb Love can more than fill the shoes of a scoring wing, a dynamic scoring wing for Michigan. So I think it's going to be a great fit. I think that Caleb Love his time at Chapel Hill might have run its course. Maybe he and head coach Hubert Davis did not see eye to eye. Who knows what happened? Maybe he needs a fresh start. But I love the fact that Michigan was able to convince Caleb Love to join the Wolverine family. And I think I think it'd be a good fit. What do you all think? And then who is Marcus Damast from SIU and Justin Harmon from Utah Valley? These are two guards that have committed to coming to Illinois right now. They're both veteran scorers, decent setup wings. Damast was asked to score a lot for SIU. He could go in the post at 6'6". He can spread the floor, shooting the three. He can beat you off the bounce as well. Very crafty with the basketball. I don't know as much about Justin Harmon other than the fact that he is a sneaky 6'4" guard that can dunk on you in traffic. He was 34% from three-point land, so a decent stroke from three, but he likes to get downhill. He's a physical guard, Chicago native. I believe he went to Curie High School. Yes, Curie High School native. So when you look at Illinois in their backcourt, now you bring in a veteran 6'6" Marcus Damast, who coming out of the Missouri Valley Conference, those are grown-ass men. So he's not going to shy away from the physicality of the Big Ten play. A crafty scorer can, like I said, you can run him into the post. He spaces the floor, so he gives Illinois a consistent three-point shooter. Justin Harmon's a guy that may be able to play some point guard in a pinch, but I do think he is a bona fide wing guy who will put it on the deck a little bit more, I think, than Damast. Is physical like Damast, so he won't shy away from the physicality as well. And he shined brightest when Utah Valley was playing some big-time competition. Wake Forest, Cincinnati, New Mexico. He had big games against higher-level competition when he was at Utah Valley. So that's kind of a sense of what Illinois is getting from these two wing players that committed to Illinois out of the transfer portal. All right. Ooh, we got a few people up here today. I know it's been a minute. Let's get to the comments here. What's up, Crumbs? Good to see you. Glad you could tune in. Thanks for tuning in as always. These transfers are incredible. Best is yet to come, but the sad part is Mikey Williams. He's referring to Mikey Williams, who was arrested, I believe, for weapons possession. He was in an altercation over the past weekend in San Diego. And I believe Mikey Williams has committed to Louisville. So is a uber talented guard. Crazy. One of the best guards in the country coming out of high school. Crazy athletic. He's a social media star already. He's made 6 figures off of his social media already. His NIL numbers will more than likely push that to 7 figures. So hopefully it's a situation where he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I hope that it's not an Allen Iverson situation where the local authorities have it out for him and are trying to derail his promising career, but we're going to have to pay attention to see what happens with that. Squares, circle squares. I love you as well. Thank you very much. Who would be a game changer for the Illini? I think the Illini need a veteran point guard. Now, Sincere Harris showed that, especially defensively, he can handle it from the point guard position. He might get the nod to start point guard, but I would like Illinois to go get a veteran point guard, somebody that can either start for them or come off the bench for Sincere Harris. But they need a stabilizing force in that lead guard position. I thought Jaden Epps would have come back and been an excellent lead guard for the Illini, but he chose to go elsewhere. So we'll see if Sincere Harris will get the nod as starting point, but I would like to see Illinois go in the transfer portal and get a veteran point guard that can really give the Illini some stability from that position. Nice to see you back. Have I missed some shows or did you take vacation? Yeah, I was in Mexico for a week, if you couldn't tell. Got the sun kissed my skin a little bit. You probably can't tell, but my hair color is coming out, so it's like brown, blonde, black, and silver, all mixed up. So yeah, this is the first show in a while, so you didn't miss anything. Yuri Collins was the guard from St. Louis that Ace Baldwin ate his lunch, took his lunch money, and kicked him off the curb. I'm telling you, Ace Baldwin is a baller who's going to be at Penn State with the newly named head coach Mike Rhodes. Should there be a limit or more regulation on the transfer portal? No. Should players be allowed one transfer so guys like Jalen Coleman Lands don't play at different school every year? He went from Illinois to DePaul to Iowa State to Kansas. So, Andrew Moody, what's good, my man? I don't think there should be any limitations on the transfer portal. If you guys think about this, think about from a parent's perspective, and you've invested over 6 figures of money, of time, of resources to get your young son or young daughter to this position to be able to really capitalize on your investment. So if parents don't have any cap on what they can invest in terms of AAU camps, personal training, skills training, strength and conditioning, if parents can spend an unlimited amount of money and resources to get their son or daughter these opportunities, then in my opinion, Andrew, the players should have the opportunity to go as many places as they possibly can and to get as much money as they possibly can, because their parents have put the investment towards their opportunities. So I don't think there should be any limits to the transfer portal. But very good question, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel similar to the way that you feel. Lania Jones, how you doing? If Zach stays, are they number one again in the Big Ten, along with Michigan State? Oh, you're talking about Purdue. If Zach Edey stays, I think Zach Edey is coming back to Purdue. That's what those are the things that I hear. I haven't heard. I don't know if he's put his name in the to test the NBA draft waters. I think he should do that. I don't know if he has or not. I think he should if he hasn't. But I think there's a strong possibility that Zach Edey returns to Purdue. And if he does return, it depends on the rest of the roster, Lania. So we'll have to see. So we're still really early in this process. What else does Michigan need? Michigan needs a point guard. I don't know the status of Jalen Llewellyn, who is slotted to be their starting point guard, but went out in the preseason with a torn ACL. I don't know his status. I don't know if he's returning. But if he doesn't return, Doug McDaniels did a pretty good job as a freshman thrown into the fire. He'll come back, but I still would want to see Michigan with another point guard option. So I'd like to see them go with a veteran point guard in the transfer portal. They could, if Hunter Dickinson does not come back, I believe that the big fella from St. Louis that was really starting to play well. I think he's a viable post player, so I think Michigan's okay there. I know that Isaiah Barnes put his name in the transfer portal, so he's left. So I would like to see Michigan maybe go get another big in the transfer portal, and if depending on Jalen Llewellyn returns, then maybe they can go get another wing. But if Jalen Llewellyn does not return, I'd like to see Michigan get another point guard to go along with Doug McDaniels and another post player, transfer post, just to give them some more depth up front. You can tell I've been on vacation too long. My brain is a little wiry. Lou all the way. Ryan Blaker. That's funny. I thought that was Ryan Baker, my college roommate. That's Ryan Blaker. IU all the way. All right. I think Caleb Love will be different for Jawan. You know, sometimes players need new environments. Hoop ball or scoop. Listen, I don't know that Caleb Love needs to be much different. He's a double-digit scorer for his career at North Carolina. He played in a national championship game, so he's played in pressurized scenarios. He understands being at a blue blood like North Carolina, the pressure that comes game to game with being at a place like Michigan. So I think you could be right. He change of scenery, and I think that Juwan Howard may have a different approach than Hubert Davis. We'll see. But it's going to be interesting because I think that Caleb Love could have an outstanding season for Michigan because of his ability. What's up, Jay Hood? Okay, Jonathan Hood's got a new radio podcast page. We all need to go and like his page because Jay Hood does excellent work as a voice of men's basketball for UIC. Ben Krikke saw him at Valpo, one of the best players in the Valley, unselfish, very polished in the mid-range. So thank you, Jay Hood, as always, as one of the top contributors to Bardo's Breakdown. Jay Hood is talking about Ben Krikke. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Is a very skilled big. And I knew that when he signed to go to Iowa, Fran McCaffrey doesn't get players that aren't skilled. Generally, 1 through 5, his players are very, very skilled. And I knew this kid was going to be one that would fit in with what the Hawkeyes were doing very well, similar to what we saw. What's the kid's name that just finished? I have drawn I've had way too much beer and seafood down in Mexico. That it'll come back here in a second, but Ben Krikke will be a very valuable member to the Hawkeyes season next season. Where is Hunter Dickinson going to go? I'm hearing Kentucky. Maybe Oscar doesn't leave, just stay at Michigan. Well, I talked about this. Right now, it looks like he's leaning towards Maryland or Georgetown to go back to the DMV. The third option would be to come back to Michigan, and the fourth and fifth options would, in my opinion, would be Kentucky or Kansas. But I have a feeling we'll end up seeing him in the DMV with either Maryland or Georgetown. I know someone on your past lives always says Tom Izzo hasn't won a title in 23 years, but can we call him Mr. March, but don't win it? So they got players coming back. So Bardo for the 24th year, can they win it? Durrani Thompson, they could certainly win it because with Hogard, Walker coming back, they lost Brooks to Butler, which I thought Brooks was coming on a little bit, and that's kind of sad to see him leave. But you've got your starting backcourt coming back. You've got Malik Hall coming back. The only player that you really lose is Joey Hauser. And Hauser was a valuable member of that ball club, but I believe that they could find a way to overcome Hauser's loss. I think Michigan State could be a team that, depending on who they fill in the spots for, because I know they've got an outstanding recruiting class coming in. I think Jaden Akins is going to get better. I think they have all the ingredients of a national title contender. So Durrani Thompson, yes, I could say that Michigan State, barring something catastrophic happening, I believe that they could be in the mix for a Big Ten title and also a national title next season. Ryan Blaker says the Georgetown pick for Hunter would be interesting. It would be because Georgetown is going to have to really go into the portal and hit like 3 or 4 home runs in order to be really competitive in the Big East. Even with an elite coach like Ed Cooley, Georgetown's got a long way to go to be competitive in the Big East with the national champion UConn Huskies returning, with a much improved Villanova Wildcats team, with a very good Marquette team that basically returns everybody that won the regular season and the Big East Conference tournament. So it will be interesting to see if Hunter Dickinson will go the route of Georgetown and having to go to a rebuilding mode, so to speak, whereas Maryland, with Jameer Young coming back, out, all Big Ten performer. You've got Dante Scott said that he's coming back. Hakeem Hart's name is in the transfer portal, but think about what that would do to what Hakeem Hart would think about if Hunter Dickinson were to wear a Maryland Terrapins jersey. All of a sudden, you're looking at Maryland with Jameer Young at point at the 1, Dante Scott at the 3-4, possibly Hakeem Hart if he were to come back at the 3-4. And then you got Hunter Dickinson at the 5 with an Ian Martinez. I think he's still coming back. I haven't seen his name in the transfer portal, but an Ian Martinez coming back. Maryland would all of a sudden be a Big Ten title favorite as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Ron Charles, good to see you, brother. I may be a little off topic. Yeah, we're not talking about Bronny James. Andrew Moody, I think the national media artificially rips on Caleb Love. I think they honestly take into account the off-court rumors and suppress how talented of a scorer and player he is. Yeah, I mean, Andrew, there may be off-court rumors, but I don't think that he's gotten any serious trouble with the law off the floor, and he's a dynamic scorer. So, I agree with you. I think the national media goes a little bit too far, but in terms of putting the ball in the bucket, there's not many that can do it better. Carson Fowler. What's up, Carson? Played against Judah Mintz in high school. I think Syracuse may have a case to get the big fella, especially considering Adrian Autry's player relationships. Okay, you're talking ACC. We're talking Big Ten. I will say the Big Ten will be interesting this winter. I'm just hoping Illinois can get something together in the game plan before this is all said and done. I really don't want to see them go backwards. Hawkins, I hope, stays. Yeah, Ben, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of movement on that roster. So I spoke to Tim Anderson, the Illini assistant, briefly over the weekend. His voice was a little raspy because they are on the phone. They are working the phones like crazy. They're working the portal like crazy. And if you know Brad Underwood, you know that he's going to put together a pretty good team, if not an elite team. Because one, he's a hell of a recruiter, and two, the guy can coach. And he can sell his program on players coming in. So it will be interesting to see. But if I had to bet, I would bet that Illinois will come with some surprises in the transfer portal. What's the next move for the Illini? Also nothing that 3 starting point guards have walked in the last year or so. Yeah, the next move will probably be to get a point guard, in my opinion. They could also get another big up front. But for the wing position, I think that they're pretty solid with Marcus Demast and Justin Harmon in the transfer portal, 2 veteran scorers on the wing. I like those additions. Something or nothing that the Illini have lost 3 starting point guards in the last year or so. I don't really think there's any big, I don't think there's anything with losing 3-point guards, starting point guards in the portal. I don't think there's anything to it. That's happening all over the country. I read that Hunter said he would go to Kentucky if Oscar did not come back. If I was Oscar, I would come back to college, NIL. A lot of guys make more in college now. Oscar Tshiebwe made $2.75 million last year for Kentucky in NIL proceeds. So could he come back? Yes, of course. Could he test it? I don't think that he'll test the waters. I think that's not a good formula for guys like Oscar Tshiebwe, Hunter Dickinson. They don't need to test the draft waters. They've already done so. They know what NBA teams think of them. And so if I'm Oscar Tshiebwe, can I get a professional contract that's equal or can exceed what Kentucky is going to give me? And in my opinion, even if he went to China and signed a 1-year deal, he's not going to make more than what guys with NBA on their resume make in China. So from a money play, he could come back to Kentucky. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Something or nothing that's come up a few times. What have you heard about IU and Xavier Johnson? Will he be able to return to Bloomington with a medical waiver? Yes, they're working on that. And if he can't get that, he will come back to Indiana. So it's kind of up to the NCAA's discretion whether Xavier Johnson can return. We'll see. And if he does, does that make Indiana dynamic? What's up, James Kummerer? Good to see you, my man. I always appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I have no doubt Dickinson is going to wind up at Georgetown. It's a great fit for him and the Hoyas. It was a disappointing season for him. Okay, let me address this first. Okay, James, why do you have no doubt that Hunter will go to Georgetown? That's a strong statement. I don't disagree. I mean, I'm not here to like, oh, that's crazy. No, I don't think you're crazy. You seem very confident. Do you have some intel that you can share? Disappointing season for my Illini. I have to give credit for your insight on the importance of all the talent gelling together. You weren't convinced that they would, and they didn't. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Give me some more insight on why you're so confident about Dickinson. I find that very interesting. My dad, Alana 89, got your jersey hanging in the basement. Oh, okay, Brandon, cool. I love it. Take a picture of it and share it, please, if you don't mind. I'd love to see that. Imani Williams. What's up, Imani? When will the Big Ten ever win a national title again? We'll see. You know, that's the elephant in the room. What's up, Derek Chivas? What's going on, my man? Missouri great. Can score in the phone booth. My man, Mamela. I was hoping Illinois could go out and get Baylor's LJ Cryer. I thought he'd be a great veteran guard for this group. Unfortunately, he went to Houston. LJ Cryer, who played at Baylor, is a knockdown three-point shooter, elite floor spacer. And he will be with the Houston Cougars as Tremont Mark, who was an unsung hero for Houston in the round 2 of their come from behind victory against Auburn. Head scratcher there. He leaves Houston and goes to Arkansas. So that transfer allowed room for LJ Cryer, outstanding shooter, to transfer from Baylor to Houston. He would have been a heck of a pickup for Illinois. Thank you, Crumbs. I certainly will. I like Damast as well. Leader on that SIU team, fundamentals of sound, aggressive score. Jay Hood, thank you for that. Jay Hood is a veteran of basketball in general, but in particular the Missouri Valley Conference, where he is a voice on the University of Illinois Chicago Flames. Curtis Dietz, who is the front runner for the Big Ten? Is it Purdue? Way too early to tell, Curtis, because all the movement in the transfer portal, and we have to see what these incoming recruiting freshmen look like. So way too early to tell, but I tell you what, Purdue got a good one in the transfer portal in Lance Jones. They lose a good guard in Brandon Newman, who put his name in the transfer portal. So we'll have to see. A lot of moving parts still left to be resolved, but front runners, certainly if Hunter Dickinson goes to Maryland, they have to be considered. Michigan State has to be considered with the fact that their starting backcourt in Hogard and Tyson Walker return. Malik Hall is returning as well. Cooper and Kohler, the two freshman bigs, started to come on at the end of the season. They still have Madi Sissoko. Jaden Akins will be a year older. So Michigan State will have to be in the mix for preseason conference favorite. And there's one more that I'm missing. Well, I mean, if Hunter Dickinson returns to Michigan, which is definitely an option, now you're looking at Doug McDaniel and maybe Jalen Llewellyn at point. You're looking at Caleb Love at the 2. I think Joey Baker's gone, but wings are that's an area of uncertainty for Michigan. Yeah, they would still have to shore it up a little bit, but obviously Hunter Dickinson is a key cog in determining the preseason favorites. But Purdue will be right up there if Zach Edey doesn't go to the NBA and they can retain the majority of their roster that was on there this season. Shout out former Illini forward Roger Powell Jr. on being named the head coach at Valparaiso. I think he's going to kill it there. Will be a Power 5 school in no time. I agree with you, Andrew. Big ups to Roger Powell Jr. That's a great fit because of Roger Powell's belief system. He's a believer. He's a Christian. That fits with what Valparaiso's mission is. The very competitive in the Missouri Valley have Valpo's been in the past. Valpo is a sleeper school, in my opinion, because it's in Northwest Indiana. You're right next to Chicago. You're in a talent-rich state of Indiana. Talent-rich state of Michigan is just north of you. I think he'll do a fantastic job, and there will be some Power 5 schools that, if he does well to jump off the jump, Andrew, and gets Valpo going in the first 2 or 3 seasons, I think you'll see Roger Powell's name emerge. I would really like for college basketball to get back to normal, get high school seniors and develop them. It works. Transfer portal has become confusing. Well, Derek, I'm sorry to say those days are over, partner. Developing high school seniors, it does work, but the pressure from college coaches to win yesterday has really overtaken the process. So the transfer portal process is the way to get good quickly. So you saw a Kansas State go to the transfer portal and get to the Elite Eight. You saw a team in FAU that had a ton of transfers get to the Elite Eight. You saw teams like FAU got to the Final Four with a team of transfers. So unfortunately, Derek, this is the norm. This is the new norm. Going to get 4 and 5 high school seniors to bring them in to develop. Coaches don't have that kind of time anymore. So unfortunately, this is the new norm. Terrace Reed, yes, is the big fella who has a bright future at Michigan. I didn't see his name in the transfer portal. I don't know if he is testing the waters, but he is a talented big who Michigan can really build around. Latina Davis, you ever sometimes see players entering the NBA draft with an agent inside, shake your head. Sometimes players, I'm like, you ain't making an impact during the season, but hey, they're betting on themselves. Yeah, Latina Davis, the process to make the NBA is a lot different now, and it's not really based on production at the college level. It's really based on potential. So when you see players that you know could get better if they could return to college and have another year under their belt, the NBA is looking at potential. And if you can get a two-way contract, if you can get a lot of players would prefer to go to the G League to start making money than to stay in college and to have to struggle with NIL opportunities. I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of players, they don't want to be in college. They want to be on the fastest, most direct route to get to the NBA. So unfortunately, that's the world that we deal in. Yeah, brain farts and vacation farts. Let's call it that. Matthew May, good to see you. Were you thinking of Terrace Reed? Yes, Michigan. Georgetown is looking good with transfers. Cooley can coach. Ed Cooley is a real deal, y'all. What about Larry Hughes Jr.? I'm not familiar with Larry Hughes. I've seen his name, but I don't know what you're talking about there. What's up, Gary Stevens? Good to see you. What can the Big Ten do to play more competitively in the NCAA tournament? Get quicker, better athletes. It's the same in football. The Big Ten football, they get rated high, they get ranked highly, and they go up against an SEC or a Pac-12 school and get the brakes beat off of them because they can't keep up athletically. Big Ten basketball teams look pedestrian when they get to the NCAA tournament because they don't have the athletes to compete against the elite of the SEC, the elite of the Big 12, the elite of the Big East even, the elite of the Pac-12. It's elite athleticism is what the Big Ten struggles with. That's what would get them more competitive, Gary, in my opinion, in the NCAA tournament, is to get better athletes at every position. Yep, Chuck Ramey, he's going to do a great job there. Harold Hartman, good to see you. Do you think either Coleman, Hawkins, or Terrence Shannon Jr. will come back to Illinois? Here's my opinion, Harold, and I can be totally off with this. Terrence Shannon Jr. will return to Illinois, and Coleman Hawkins will keep his name in the draft. That's just what I think. Coleman Hawkins, what I was referring to before when Latina Davis was talking about when players should stay or where they should go or not, Coleman Hawkins has a skill set that NBA teams love and covet. And So I think Terrence Shannon Jr. will return back because I think that he can still refine his game more. Coleman Hawkins could definitely refine his game more, but I think that at the college level, we may have seen Coleman's game peak. I know that sounds crazy to everybody, but I think Coleman Hawkins, he will probably keep his name in the draft and somehow find his way on a roster or a two-way contract or even in the G League. But Terrence Shannon Jr., to me, I think will possibly return to Illinois because he's not going to make more money at the next level than he will coming back to Illinois. Now, he can come back to Illinois and have an outstanding year again and possibly get drafted in the first round. That would be what I think would be his best case scenario. So that's what I think. What is a medical waiver? I thought you couldn't play more than 20% of your games in the season to get a red shirt. Correct. Did Xavier Johnson play more than 20% of those games? Because he went out in the Kansas game, correct? And that was in mid-December. So was that more than 20% of Indiana's games? I'm not sure, Curtis, but I'm sure there's been some adjustments to that medical waiver for the NCAA. So I'm sure that may be a piece of it, but there's a lot more to consider. So that's what's going on right now with Indiana and the NCAA, trying to figure out, can they get a medical waiver for Xavier Johnson? What's up, Ben Sims? I agree 100% with you on Underwood. Great coach and recruiter. Lots of people have already forgot how he's brought the program out of the slumps. Exactly, Ben. I really hope they do pull out with some surprises to put a great team together for this season again. I wouldn't bet against Brad Underwood. And I love fandom. I love fans because that's what makes our business. We couldn't have our business without fans. But fans have such a short memory. Do you want to bring John Gross back? You want the John Gross Illini days, Illini fans? Or do you like being in contention for Big Ten titles, Big Ten conference tournament titles, and getting that large bids to the NCAA? Do you like having that happen? Because if you do, keep supporting Brad Underwood. If you don't, ask for Brad Underwood's head. Watch Brad Underwood go to a Big 12 school. Just saying. What will be the best college basketball conference in the NCAA? Gary, it's right now. It's so much in flux with the transfer portal. It's too early to tell. There's too many moving parts. We'll have a much better sense in June when the rosters will settle a little bit. We'll get a better sense of who's going to withdraw their names from the NBA, testing the NBA waters. We'll get a much better feel then. So right now it's too early to tell. What's up, Nate Maurice? Good to see you, brother. It was good to see you at Theory Sports Bar watching those games. Hope you're doing well. Lance Jones, Matthew May is a tough guard that can shoot it from deep. He can defend. He can set his teammates up. He's a little smaller in terms of size. He's not quite as big as David Jenkins. I think he's 6'1", maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he's physical. He can get downhill. He can space the floor, and he can defend. So he really fits in well with what the Boilermakers are trying to do. I think he can really push Braden Smith in practice every day and be that guy that can come in and spell Braden Smith when he gets in trouble or the game maybe gets a little bit too fast or maybe a little too physical. So he's a really good complementary guard for what Purdue is looking to do. What's up, AO? Underwood says we are a developmental program. He's completely doing the opposite. He's all in to assemble through the portal. Well, AO, you have to now. If you're going to try to build through high school recruiting only, and so let's look at the current roster with Illinois right now. So you've got Sincere Harris at the point guard position. You've got Marcus Damast, Justin Harmon at the wing, Luke Goody at the wing. Then you've got Dane Danger inside. Brandon Lee left, put his name in the transfer portal. RJ Melendez is gone, put his name in the transfer portal. We know that Epps is already, Melendez is going to be at Georgia. Epps is going to be at Georgetown. So think about Illinois trying to fill those holes this season, coming up this next season, with freshmen like Jaden Epps, like the kid Sky Clark. Imagine trying to plug those holes in against a team like Penn State this past season that had the oldest roster in the NCAA. Imagine Illinois trying to compete with Penn State. Oops, they didn't. I forgot. They got swept. That's what you're looking at if you don't build through the transfer portal. You've got to get old quick, right? So I know what Underwood said when he came to Illinois, but things have changed rapidly with the transfer portal. So you got to get old. Can you sustain a program that way? I don't think so. I think you got to go, you have to have a nice mix. If you can get one or two really good high school seniors to come into your program and develop them, and then maybe you can get a junior college transfer and you go in the transfer portal, you have to have a blend, ladies and gentlemen, because you can't be young in today's college basketball. It just doesn't work. Look at Kentucky. You haven't heard from Kentucky in years because they try to go get the blue blood high school seniors and really get them ready to, by the end of the conference season, they're playing at their peak, and you get into conference tournament play, you get to NCAA tournament play. That hasn't worked for Kentucky. So if it doesn't work for a blue blood like Kentucky, it's pretty much not going to work if you're going to be high-level Power 5 conference basketball. You've got to go through the portal. You got to sustain your program. You got to bring influx of players in your program every year. That's just the way it is now. Why hasn't more Illinois college had success in the past? Loyola had a short run. Northwestern has had 2 good years. Illinois seems back on track. College basketball is tough, Curtis. It's a tough business. It's just a tough business, and everybody's competitive. Every program is trying to, be at their best, and so you have ebb and flows. And DePaul has not been good in a while, and it's tough when you get to the lower level of conferences to work your way back up in competitive conferences. It's hard. So Larry Hughes Jr. was at SLU. I didn't see him in the transfer portal. He had some solid minutes coming up off the bench for St. Louis. Okay, thank you, Curtis. Once again, a great show and informative people. Let's give Stephen Bardo standing ovation once again. Thank you very much, Late. Thank you, Facebook user. I really appreciate that. That warms my heart. I appreciate you guys always giving me your undivided attention. We've been on here almost an hour, and I've had over 50 people on this live at one time. So thank you very much. Joe Stovall, one of the founding members of Bardo's Breakdown, with the NIL transfer portal and one and done. D1 basketball is not your daddy's college basketball system. Should athletic directors start looking at successful Juco coaches as potential candidates for the next hires? Great point, Joe Stovall. Great point. They're accustomed to rapid turnover of rosters. They coach to their talent, not to a particular system. Thoughts? Joe Stovall's got the idea of the offseason so far. Should college programs, when looking to bring in a new head coach, should they go get successful junior college coaches? That is a great, great point and question. And I think you're on to something, Joe. You are certainly on to something. Now, the issue here is, can junior college coaches be the face of a Nebraska program? Can they be the face of a Alabama program? Because those big state schools, those big Power 5 programs, they have huge alumni bases and followings. And you want a certain persona character that's going to be the face of your program. So a lot of time, not a lot of times, sometimes junior college coaches, they're outlaws, right? They're great coaches, X's and O's, great recruiters, but they're slovenly in their appearance. Maybe they're not married. High Power 5 programs like to hire coaches that are married with families, that provide some stability. Sometimes junior college coaches may not be married because they're not making any money. It's hard to raise a family when you're not making a lot of money. So there's a lot of things to consider, but from a pure X's and O's standpoint, a recruiting standpoint, a roster turnover standpoint, Joe Stovall, you've got a great idea. Great point there. I'm pinning that one. That was the best comment of the off season. William Bryant, I think that there's the reason why I'm going to do these updates is because what happens is when Illinois, like all these other programs, when they add players from the transfer portal, now we can start to see, okay, this is what Marcus Damas brings from SIU. This is what Justin Harmon from Utah Valley brings to the Illini program. So still a lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff left to be worked out. And until we find that out, it's going to be hard to see what Illinois and all these other programs will look like, William. Nate Maurice, the transfer portal as well as NIL is part of the recruiting process, and the quality coaches have and will adjust. Similarly to what Power 5 conference coaches had to do when the one and dones came into the fold. Very good point. Great point, Nate. What else does Illinois need to replenish their player losses from last year to be competitive this upcoming season? Robert Mitchell. Robert, they could go out and get one of everything, really. Because when you lose like Melendez, Epps, Clark, possibly Coleman Hawkins, possibly Trace Jackson, Terrence Shannon Jr., you lose a Matthew Meyer. You lose a Brandon Lieb, who I thought was going to really come on. That's a tough loss for Illinois. So their roster was gutted. And so, you need a little bit of everything. But what would really help them, to me, is a veteran point guard. No knock on Sincere Harris, but if you could get a veteran lead guard that could really stabilize the Illini offense, I think that would be their most important piece, would be a lead guard. Oh, okay, Captain. Thank you for that, brother. Captain Fletcher, tribe member for Bardo's Breakdown. Let me, while I'm talking here, let me put that scroll in. If you want to join the inner circle, that is Bardo's Breakdown, the tribe, you can text me to 312-847-2739. That's 312-847-2739. Or if you don't want to be a part of the inner circle, the tribe, the text tribe, you can go to the old school newsletter, stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. So those are both the ways that you can join the inner circle of Bardo's Breakdown. You can text me to 312-847-2739 to be the inner circle of the tribe, or you could join the newsletter, stephenbardo.com/college-basketball-newsletter. So let me go back to the comments. Do you think JUCO players are getting lost with the transfer portal? Some are, Curtis. It's the transfer portal has really hurt. It's hurt the high school seniors the most, but it's also hurt junior college transfers as well. Good point. Andrew Blotch, ads are filling in needs and depth. Yes. Perhaps administrators should think about Joe Stovall as a candidate for AD. Matthew May, they would be wise to do so. I love that. Well, that looks like that's it for all of the comments. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. I always appreciate you spending your time with me here on Bardo's Breakdown. So I'm going to come back each week, and I'm going to start this the inner circle, where I'm going to get some in-depth interviews, some different things, a lot of surprises. So stay tuned to Bardo's Breakdown because that's coming up very, very shortly. Until next time, y'all, tune in to Bardo's Breakdown. And until next time, I'm your man, Stephen Bardo. Holla, y'all.